The 49ers continue to invest in their offensive line. They might have found a diamond in the rough. Just watch this tape. Watch the movement ability. Brett Toth is the newest signing. He's playing center here. Circled at the 45 on the left. He is just going to destroy the safety. That is the 49ers' new addition at offensive line, Brett Toth. This is what he looks like. This is an Army guy. He graduated from the U.S. Military Academy in West Point and has since been persevering his way to an NFL career. And he's been doing this over several years. Brett Toth graduated back in 2019. That's when he first joined the Philadelphia Eagles. Cut 8 times by the Eagles because, at Army, they run a thing called the triple option. It's an archaic offensive system, but that's what Army runs. In Brett Toth's senior season at Army, they ran the ball 785 times, and they only attempted 65 downfield passes. So this guy, he's got great movement ability that could translate theoretically to an outside zone, but he came out of college at Army without the real ability to pass block. But he has been in one of the best offensive line systems in all football his entire time in Philadelphia. Jeff Stoutland was the offensive line coach. I know Stoutland recently resigned, but the Eagles have had a fantastic offensive line. It got all the way to the point where Brett Toth was able to deliver 363 snaps for the Eagles this season at both left guard and center, and played well at both positions. The pass protection was good enough to no longer be a liability. He gave up 13 pressures over those 363 snaps. But I mean, this is a great story, a really, really good story. Somebody in the Army, we thank him for his service, and he still continues to give back in that way. He's been an ROTC instructor back when he was with the Arizona Cardinals, at Arizona State University, with the Philadelphia Eagles at Temple University, which is in Philadelphia. I'm sure that he'll find probably San Jose State has an ROTC program near the 49ers, and he can continue doing that in his free time. But this is a player the 49ers have now added into the mix at left guard. And I have to say, he's a badass. If you got through the military academy at West Point, you have my full respect. Second lieutenant when he graduated in 2019, and has found a way to scrap and claw in the NFL to stick around. I mean, the Eagles might have cut him 8 times because he was still developing, and NFL rosters are small, but the Eagles also re-signed him that many times. They wanted him around all the way to the point where he earned real playing time in 2025. So where does he fit for the 49ers? Well, the biggest need for San Francisco along the offensive line has been at left guard. And I think that the 49ers are very interested in re-signing Ben Bartch to that left guard position, but he has been unable to stay consistently healthy. So the 49ers need different options at that left guard position. And here you have Toth, who can play both left guard and center, to give the 49ers, I think, their best backup center on the roster right now. Matt Hennessy is a pending free agent, and the 49ers have not yet re-signed him. So I'm going to make the addition to the 90-man depth chart right now. The 49ers re-signed Nick Zakelj a couple weeks ago. I no longer project Nick Zakelj to make the 53-man roster. The goal when re-signing Zakelj was to continue building the offensive line so that Zakelj wouldn't project to make the 53, because he's obviously not a great lineman, but could be a trusted depth piece, maybe a practice squad guy for the 49ers. So we're going to move Nick Zakelj over here to the right side. And I am going to go ahead and immediately slot Brett Toth in. I don't want to slot him as a starter at this point, but I do think that if the 49ers don't sign Ben Bartch or somebody like that, then Toth would project to be the starter. I do think they've brought him in, though, on a one-year deal to compete and to be left guard and center depth. So I'll put Toth in right there behind Connor Colby. Now, again, I expect the 49ers to bring back Ben Bartch, and this would give them some significant insurance if they do bring back Ben Bartch, who has been good at guard, better than Colby, better than Spencer Burford last year, but has been unable to stay healthy. Now, we shade all free agent acquisitions in teal, so we can go ahead and shade Brett Toth in teal. The 49ers yesterday added Vidarian Lowe, who is a swing tackle. So what you're seeing San Francisco do right now is add depth to the offensive line, which is very, very necessary. This is I repeat this almost every year. I think in order to be a championship level team, you need to have at least 7 capable, workable offensive linemen. These seasons are long. The 49ers are going to travel more miles than any team in NFL history this year. It starts in Australia. That is a flight of several thousand miles, about 16 hours to Melbourne for a game against the Rams. In December, the 49ers will head to Mexico City. There will be a couple East Coast road trips. It is going to be an arduous season. And if they want to win a Super Bowl, and obviously the 49ers are pushing some chips in for that right now. They've already signed Mike Evans, and we can talk a little bit about Osa Odighizuwa. The 49ers have inquired about the Dallas Cowboys defensive tackle, a really good defensive tackle, to try to make a big trade to fortify the interior. Obviously, the 49ers are arranging the deck chairs with some veterans here to bolster their roster. If you want to make it that distance, the offensive line needs to be fortified beyond just the starting 5. I mean, to illustrate, just last season, the 49ers lost Trent Williams for some key games. I think that's why they've signed Vidarian Lowe. They're still working on the contract for Trent Williams, but he remains on the football team here for 2026. They lost 2 left guards. So first, the 49ers lost Ben Barch, and then Connor Colby came in, and then they had to move on to Spencer Burford. So they went through 3 different players at the left guard position. Jake Brendel, the center, stayed healthy throughout the year, but he was fighting knee tendonitis in 2024. And Brett Toth filled in for Cam Jurgens, who's the Philadelphia starting center this past year. So Toth can be depth for both pieces. Dominic Pooney played last year all season, but he was dealing with an knee injury that he suffered in the preseason against the Raiders. And Colton McKivitz, yeah, he proved durable, but you never know when you're going to lose an offensive tackle. So we're seeing the 49ers right now. I think that they have 8 capable offensive linemen projected to make this 53-man depth chart. That is really, really necessary. And Brett Toth, I see his background. We talk about the fact that he can move well, because he comes from Army, where they run the triple option. They had that crazy amount of runs throughout his career, especially his senior year. Look, it's reflected in his scores. He's got one of the old school relative athletic score charts because he's 29 years old. He's been in the NFL since 2019, undrafted free agent in 2018. He was a graduate assistant. I think that he did a lot of stuff at Army after his graduation, as a second lieutenant. But then he joined the league. This was the pro day testing profile. He also went to the combine, and he was able to score pretty well on the speed metrics. He hit 18.7 miles per hour, it says here, at the NFL combine. I don't see the 40 time at the combine, so maybe that's misrepresented. Either way, we do have a 40 time of 5.1 recorded at his pro day. That, in terms of offensive linemen, is a great score. 5.1, 20-yard split 2.96, 10-yard split 1.78. These all score in the 8s, which is classified as great. And the 3-cone drill, which measures the lateral quickness at 7.4 pro day, that is 9.46. That is elite. Now, not great vertical jump explosiveness, and the broad jump and the short shuttle were just average for Brett Toth. But the 3-cone and the speed shows that this is somebody who comes from the who comes from the triple option background, who can move in space. And when you talk about the 49ers offensive line blocking like an accordion, the guards and even the center have to get on reach blocks. They have to get to the second level. There's just basically more movement demanded from 49ers offensive linemen. I think that that triple option background definitely is something that's appealing, but it's not like he's coming out of Army right now. This is over a half decade ago. Brett Toth has gotten to work under Jeff Stoutland, one of the most respected offensive line coaches in the game, over the course of the past half decade. I know that he's been a journeyman. He's been with the Arizona Cardinals, then back with the Eagles. He's been a little bit around the league, but the Eagles have wanted him back. Jeff Stoutland has wanted him back. And you know what? The Eagles and Jeff Stoutland are no longer a thing. Jeff Stoutland resigned. We can get into the coaching politics of the Philadelphia Eagles and Nick Sirianni in another show, but I don't think that helps the Philadelphia Eagles to lose such a respected offensive line coach, and that might have been part of the reason why Philadelphia decided not to re-sign Brett Toth and why Brett Toth has decided to sign with the San Francisco 49ers. So San Francisco's gain, Philadelphia's loss. A lineman who's developed, you saw him take out the safety earlier on. Moving forward, the 49ers, the big piece of business that San Francisco has to take care of along the offensive line is Trent Williams. We understand that. The option bonus of $10 million is due in 10 days on March 20th. So that should spur some movement on the Trent Williams front. The 49ers would love to have him back, but they need to have him back at a price that makes sense. They feel that Trent wants too much outside of structure, outside of the cap constraints that they have right now. And Trent Williams obviously thinks that the 49ers are lowballing him. Trent has leverage in that he's the best or one of the best left tackles in the game. And even somebody like Vidarian Lowe, who's a fine player, who scored decently well for the Patriots, well, that would mark a big-time downgrade at the left tackle position if the 49ers had to go to him. In fact, I can't think of anybody, including Rasheed Walker, who is a free agent, the best left tackle free agent on the market, who would mark an improvement over Trent Williams at the left tackle position, which is very, very important. I think it makes most sense for the 49ers to figure something out with Trent Williams and to marry his contract to the contract of Mike Evans. And then you've got two future Hall of Famers trying to win a Super Bowl on this 2026 49ers team. Both of them might only have 2-3 years left. Maybe they play for longer. Who knows? But they are future Hall of Famers. They both are under contract with the 49ers, and San Francisco going to want to get something done with Trent Williams to make sure that mirrors Mike Evans at least for this 2026 season. Then you've got to figure out left guard. I think Toth is a step in the right direction for the 49ers there. I do think they bring back Ben Bartch. I mean, Bartch's health issues have put it into a position to where I don't think that he can sign for much more than he did last year. And it was close to the veteran minimum. It was all guaranteed. It was like 1.3 minimum last year. He didn't play for most of the season. He's probably going to be able to sign for about that much this offseason. And I know that the 49ers definitely didn't want to roll with only somebody like Ben Bartch. But when you have Toth, who had 363 snaps at left guard and at center last year, you can definitely proceed forward at that guard position with a semblance of insurance. Spencer Burford, almost certainly gone. He's probably going to command several million somewhere. I don't think he's going to get a contract as big as Aaron Banks got, $19 million a year from the Green Bay Packers. But Burford, very, very likely not returning to the 49ers and officially will become a free agent when the new league year opens tomorrow. Other piece of news that everybody should be watching, and maybe I should pop this open on my page right here on the screen grab part, or whatever I call like projecting something onto the screen. I'm tired, guys. I've been sitting here and I've been covering the 49ers free agency. I've been covering this Max Crosby thing for too long, but I have a tweet that I wanted to share with everybody on the screen. And then we can go through what the 49ers might be looking at the defensive tackle position. All right. I might be tired, but I'm going to power through this. I'm going to get this up for you guys right now. Even though there's a lot of focus on Max Crosby right now, I think 49ers fans should be keeping an eye on the defensive tackle out of Dallas, 6'2", 290 pounds, Osa Odighizuwa. Still young, very explosive, 27 years old. And this is not just a rumor. The 49ers have contacted Dallas, and Dallas is interested in trading Osa Odighizuwa as they move from the Matt Eberflus 4-3 scheme to a 3-4 scheme. And the 49ers are going to be staying at home in a base 4-3. They need a pass rushing defensive tackle. We already know that they've been interested in a pass rushing defensive tackle, and they've been interested in paying a pass rushing defensive tackle quite a bit of money. That is John Franklin Myers. Robert Saleh outbid the 49ers for John Franklin Myers, so he's headed to Tennessee. But the 49ers have contacted Dallas on a potential trade for Osa Odighizuwa. Now, this guy's no slouch. He ranked number 5 in pressures last year out of all defensive tackles, and this is in 2024, number 5 of all defensive tackles with 60 pressures, number 8 in pass rush win rate. He had Micah Parsons helping out. Whenever Micah Parsons is on the field, teams are going to obviously focus some extra blocking attention toward him, and that's going to open up the inside. So when Odighizuwa had Parsons support, he was number 5 and number 8 in pressures and win rate. In 2025, after the Cowboys traded Parsons away, he stayed solid, number 11 and number 14 out of defensive tackles. It is worth noting that the 49ers will have Nick Bosa to provide Parsons-like support for whomever is trying to rush from the interior. So I think that you could say that Odighizuwa, still only 27, he could get better. You could say he's a fringe top 5 interior pass rusher. He's very explosive. He's still young. Now the cost, he's under contract through 2028 when he's 30 years old. So the 49ers could, whoever trades for this guy, if the trade does happen, could get him, for the prime of his career. The cost in 2026 would be the base salary and the per game roster bonus total of $500,000, $16.75 million. So let's just do some quick math. The Tennessee Titans ended up paying John Franklin Myers, who's going to be 30, $21 million a year. The 49ers could theoretically get Osa Odighizuwa for $16.75 million this year. That is a $4.25 million discount just in the short term. Of course, they would have to fork over some draft capital to the Dallas Cowboys. So then you ask, what would get this done? How much capital would Dallas need? 49ers they got an extra comp pick in the 4th round, more than they expected. They thought it'd be 2 4s and 1 5. They got 3 4s. Will that extra draft ammo help the 49ers? They really want a pass rushing defensive tackle, and they've invested already like their budget in this position. They were ready to go up to a certain price for John Franklin Myers. I'm assuming if the Tennessee Titans had to go up to $21 million and the 49ers were the second closest suitor, I'm assuming the 49ers were willing to go up to close to at least 20. And if you can get Osa Odighizuwa for $16.75 million, well, that is under the budget that you had for John Franklin Myers for a younger player. Now, what's the trade compensation going to be? I don't know. This is a promising young player who's been available throughout his career, that's still under contract for several more seasons. Jerry Jones might ask for a lot with the Dallas Cowboys, but we can sit back and see how much a lot actually means and if that works within the 49ers cost structure. We do know that they are fortifying the trenches right now, though, because they have now signed 2 offensive linemen, as we talk about Brett Toth coming over from the NFC East and the Philadelphia Eagles. And now we will be talking about potential additions to the defensive line. Apparently, Trey Hendrickson is going to be announcing his team tomorrow. And if Trey Hendrickson announces that he is joining the Baltimore Ravens, there's going to be a meltdown of epic proportions, not just from Raiders fans, maybe the Raiders organization, but from the league as a whole. We talked about the voiding of the Max Crosby trade due to a failed physical. That's been the big news of this evening, and it could be what has slowed down the wave of free agency because there really wasn't a whole lot of news over the early part of today. And even the 49ers signings that we've been covering today have been 1-year smaller deals. A little bit earlier, they brought back Garrett Wallow, the linebacker. He was already with the team to a 1-year deal. And now Brett Toth. Dallas not re-engaging in the Max Crosby market, by the way, which is interesting because they were the second highest suitor when the Ravens had initially agreed to that trade. Now, the Osa Odighizuwa situation is completely separate of that. The Cowboys obviously want Crosby because of the defensive end position. They're switching from a 4-3 to a 3-4. That might be why they feel that Osa Odigizua is extraneous now and could be tradable. They can get some draft capital for him. The 49ers, I think it's important to note that we don't have many clues yet about how they're going to run their defense. But I will say that this right here, the fact that they have checked in with Dallas on Osa Odigizua is yet another clue regarding how Raheem Morris is going to operate for San Francisco. I shared this too online about an hour ago. This is John Lynch from the NFL Combine. I think that there's been some misunderstanding of some of John Lynch's comments from the Combine, maybe people cherry picking some lines. So I think it's important to read this. This is from my article coming out of Indianapolis, talking about Raheem Morris. He's got a lot of variety to the type of defense schematically in terms of what he's deployed. He's familiar with the system we run, and what he did with the Rams can add variety to what we do. So the Rams ran a 3-4, and Raheem Morris was the defensive coordinator of the Rams, and they ran that 3-4. John Lynch says very clearly, we're a 4-man front team, but we dabbled in a lot of 5-man fronts last year. A 5-man front comes out of a 3-4 because you've got guys standing up at the edges. Raheem's done a lot more of that because he's done some 3-4 stuff. So there'll be some different body types and things, but just small tweaks. So that tells me that, plus the fact that the 49ers are keeping, or in the Monty Kiffin 4-3 system with Matt Eberflus, who was hired to work under Raheem Morris, that tells me they're going to stay at home in the 4-3. I mean, John Lynch is essentially saying it very, very clearly here. Lynch goes on to say the positive thing for me is it widens the sample size of prospective players. The guy that wasn't there because we thought he was more of a 3-4 outside backer, maybe there's a spot for him now. No, I mean, nothing of this really pertains to Osa Odigizua because he's talking about defensive ends and outside linebackers, and Odigizua is a defensive tackle in the middle. But I think that what does pertain to a potential Odigizua conversation is the fact that the 49ers will stay at home in a 4-man front. The bells and whistles of this offense are going to come through the 5-man front. They might run it more than 7 or 8% of the time like they did last year. Maybe that ups to 15 or 20% of the time. But they still, regardless of alignment up front, they need pass rushers at defensive tackle. They were short on pass rushers at defensive tackle when they finished last in the NFL with only 20 sacks last year. This right here, the construction process of the 49ers defensive line has been, I think, relatively simple. Last year at this time, they were busy releasing guys like Leonard Floyd, Malik Collins, Javon Hargrave. They're moving away from those types of players so that they could become better run defense, because they were bad on run defense in the 2024 season. They were number 29 in the league. They drafted Trent Williams, good run defender. They drafted C.J. West. They drafted Alfred Collins. They have figured out the run defense portion of things when they're healthy. Now they need to figure out the pass rush portion because it has been anemic from the inside. Even Trent Williams, who was so good as a rookie, just wasn't a great pass rusher. They had a trade for Keon White with the New England Patriots to give him some more pass rushing juice, because Trent Williams and White both flex inside to deliver there for the 49ers. They need somebody who sits at home as a defensive tackle who can also win. And for that, I go to Osa Odigizua. I think that is the 49ers' latest prospect. I could talk about trading for DeForest Buckner, but he's older, right? He's had his injury issues. This would be a player in his prime that I think could be a really, really good move for the 49ers. And, I mean, we got to keep on giving Mike credit. Mike is the one who was on top of this before it even became public. He thought that the Cowboys would be putting Osa Odigizua on the trading block. But anyway, back to the top of the show. Brett Toth, Philadelphia offensive lineman, is going to join the 49ers, and the 49ers continue investing in that offensive front. They go to the East Coast. They get Vidarian Lowe from the Patriots, and now Brett Toth from the Philadelphia Eagles. We're still talking about the Max Crosby debacle over in Baltimore, the failed physical. What kind of domino effect is that going to have? I did a whole show on that you can watch. We're going to delve into that. For now, I can answer some questions probably about the 49ers offensive line and what looks to be like a solid depth addition with some potential startability at both left guard and center. That obviously is Jake Brendel's spot. It's going to be Jake Brendel's final year under contract in 2026. And, you know, a lot of people have problems with Jake Brendel. I will say that Brett Toth filled in for Cam Jurgens, a good center for Philadelphia last year. And Philly fans, they're hard to please, seem happy with the way that Brett Toth played. This guy, Joe, would you just shut up, man? I'm going to put you on blast because all I see is negativity. You say journeyman means he's terrible. Joe, you've never played in the NFL. What have you done in your life that is 10% as impressive as somebody making the National Football League? I don't care if they're a journeyman. I don't care if they're a Hall of Famer. I don't care if, they've been cut 8 times. The guy has made the NFL and he has stuck around. Do you understand how hard that is? Beyond that, your statement here is factually incorrect. The guy played 336 snaps for a very good Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. And I think that Jeff Stoutland, who's the Philadelphia offensive line coach, knows more about offensive line play than you do. He played 336 snaps and he played them well. And even a very tough love Philadelphia crowd thought that Brett Toth was a good player. So I just see these negative comments. So this guy's terrible. That guy's terrible. What are you even talking about? You just want to be negative for the sake of being negative. Be objective and stop trolling the comment section, calling guys terrible when that objectively is not true. The guy graduated from the military academy as a second lieutenant, built himself up into a good NFL offensive lineman to stick around the league from 2019 to 2026 is an impressive feat. He did all that while instructing ROTC classes at his local colleges. I mean, the guy deserves a round of applause. He doesn't deserve somebody just getting on the internet, oh, this guy's terrible, this guy's terrible. You're not speaking with any sort of experience. You're not speaking with any sort of expertise. Not everybody should have a platform to have a megaphone and to spout their opinion, but since you do, and since you're trolling the comment section, I'm going to go out there and call you out. Like, let's be honest. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it objective. Let's talk about what this guy brings to the table because the 49ers are going to be signing him. Do I think that the 49ers add a safety in free agency? I don't know what they like in the draft. That's the thing. If they think they can if there's a big safety class in the draft that they really like, and we're going to start studying that much more closely over the course of the next month, maybe they forego free agency. I would expect them to at least go for one of those budget veteran deals toward the end. They're losing Jason Pinnock. He was only there for a year. He was more of a Robert Saleh guy. It's a position that I thought that the 49ers would definitely want to upgrade. They're also changing coordinators, and safeties are like the quarterbacks of the defense, communication-wise. Hey, safety could be even more important than linebacker. Linebacker may have the radio in his helmet, but safety sees everything developing in front of him, and the nonverbal communication is really important. So I'm just trying to get a feel for Raheem Morris's tendencies because right now, like, I'm just piecing together these clues, and we're trying to connect the dots on certain things, but we don't have a firm idea of exactly where Raheem Morris is going to want improvements and where the status quo is going to be okay with him. Greg says, I think the O-line improved with it's Brett Toth, not Jeff Toth, but they obviously improved. They brought in a good depth piece. He's better than the depth pieces that they had last year. Like he has scored better than Spencer Burford. He scored better than Nick Zakelj. I showed everybody the 49ers depth chart. Toth is going to slot right now behind Connor Colby. He's scored better than Connor Colby. I think if the season started today, you'd probably start him over Connor Colby at left guard. But I think they're going to bring back Ben Barch if and when Ben Barch is healthy, he's the best left guard that I could think of in this group of players. So unless they go outside of Dylan Parham, which we've talked about at free agency, that would cost a little bit more money. This could be the way that the 49ers handle that left guard situation. Looking through here for some questions. I don't see any questions. I just see people complaining. And this is a good comment. The O-line was not terrible for the 49ers last year. No, it wasn't. I mean, I can show you guys the actual objective metrics of the 49ers offensive line. And they might surprise some of you. Let's get these up on the screen. So this is the article up on the San Francisco Standard. The starters are up here on this half, above this dividing line. Blue is good, red is bad. The 49ers scored in the dark blue at both tackle spots and run blocking. They were good across the board in run blocking, above average. The bigger issues were at the receiver position, which they already started taking care of with a big receiver in Mike Evans. He's going to help the run game. And then you had issues pass blocking on the interior, but they weren't huge. They were bad when Ben Barch got hurt, but amongst the starters, you had 49th, 42nd, 43rd percentile. That's right around the middle. That's right around average. It's tough to pass block in the NFL. I think that the athleticism of D-lines are outpacing the athleticism of O-lines. But anyway, you had like this setup for the 49ers where left guard ended up being the biggest hole when Barch got hurt. You see how bad Connor Colby's pass blocking score was. So that's where you have to get stronger, is at the guard position, at least depth-wise. Because Barch was okay, as you can see up here, middle of the pack pass blocker, good run blocker, but he got hurt too often. So that's what this Brett Toth signing does. Now, the anchor of the line remains Trent Williams. That's why he's got leverage here, and that's why the 49ers have to figure this out. And guess what? In 10 days, the option bonus is scheduled to kick in. All right, that's hopefully the last signing of today. Brett Toth added to the 49ers. Garrett Wallow added to the 49ers. We showed you guys the San Francisco depth chart. I could show you the depth chart again. Here it is. This now means that the 49ers have 64 of 90 spots taken. Everybody get a good night's sleep. Tomorrow's going to be wild. We're going to be dealing with the fallout of the Max Crosby trade voidance. We're going to learn Trey Hendrickson's destination. That whole situation can get really, really scandalous. And the new league year is going to start tomorrow. So the 49ers probably are going to release Brandon Ayuk tomorrow with a post-June 1st designation. That could open up $8 million of salary cap space. As it stands right now, the 49ers have 26 roster spots still to fill. So they're going to work on filling those 26. They have about $30 million of salary cap space. A little bit more can open tomorrow. And they might try to trade for Osa Odigizua because they need a pass rushing defensive tackle. So a lot of good stuff happening. Up on the San Francisco Standard right now, we've got the big article. And this was on future options, including Dre Greenlaw and Trey Hendrickson, amongst others. And we've talked about Osa Odigizua on this show. So go check this out. I'll pin it at the top of the comment section. Everybody hit that like button. Thanks for watching. I've spoken to you for hours today. It's busy times in the NFL, busy times in 49ers land. We will talk to everybody very, very soon.